Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Is everybody having a terrific Tuesday so far? I really hope so. Let me know how your Tuesday's going. I saw a lot of accidents yesterday, so I just want to send out some good vibes and some good prayers to everyone. I hope everyone is okay and just be careful driving, I guess. You know, you can only be so careful, so I hope everyone is okay. And let's get into it. We're reading 20 Minutes, Part 5 of The Alley by Mingo Rubio Jr. That is my father. So let's put a timer and get into it. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, perfect. So all right, let's get into it. The Alley, Part 5. I was so mad that I told him to stop the damn car, and if he didn't, I was going to jump the hell out. He said, "But you don't even know where you are." I said, "That's not something that I'm worried about." He said, "But we're close now. We're almost there." I said, "What in the hell does it have to do with me? I don't care about any old man. I really don't care." He said, "I tried to help your dad. Please help Pete." Though I was angry, let me tell you, I was so mad, but I knew there wasn't anything I could do. I realized that he did all he could to help my dad, just like Petey and myself. They were friends too. In a way, I was responsible for Petey getting hurt. Though nobody said it, I felt that I was to blame. And he couldn't live without breaking the curse. I knew if it was me dying, he would do the same. Somehow, some way, that nightmare had to stop. And the old Chinese man seemed to hold the key. From what I heard, he was the only hope that we got. Only he knew the secrets to destroy the beast. Then I thought, no matter what, Petey is my friend, and I would do almost anything for him not to die. And the more I thought about it, I wanted revenge. If there was a way to help him, I should at least try. I really couldn't blame Mr. H for what he had done. I knew deep down inside he didn't want to hurt us. Finally, I said, "All right, Mr. H, I'll help you with your son. First, a couple of things I want to discuss. I'm going to assume that you haven't told my mom, and to tell her the truth now just wouldn't help. Besides, she's married now to my stepfather, Tom. Regardless, she doesn't deserve to be by herself." He said, "I agree with you, kid, 100%. I think Tom has been good to her. He's a good man." I said, "Yeah, he is good to her. There's no argument. Maybe it's me. I've never really given him a chance." He said, "But I can understand your position, though, not wanting another man to take your dad's place. I'm sure he feels he'll never fill that particular role. Tom realizes this, and he loves you guys anyway." He said, "Don't worry, kid. Everything will work out. Your mom will never know about this from me. I know you won't tell her either. I have no doubt. You feel that she deserves to be happy. I agree. So what other thing do you want to talk about, kid?" I said, "Show me where you put my father's grave." He said, "Okay, I will, but we have to keep it hidden because no one can never know about this charade." Suddenly, he stopped and said, "Get out of the van." I sat there for a few seconds thinking this is weird. Then I gave him a look like if I didn't understand. He looked at me and said, "Come on, kid, we're here." I said, "For a minute there, you had me a little scared when you stopped there on the side of the road. I thought he's leaving me in the middle of nowhere." He said, "If you really want, I can let you walk home." He said he somehow sensed that I was kind of still upset. He looked at me and said, "I'm sorry for what I did, but there aren't too many things in life that I regret, but this is one thing I'll regret for as long as I live." I didn't want to get emotional again, so I asked him as we stood there alongside a wrought iron fence, "So, is he a shaman, a priest, or a monk, this Mr. Kim?" He said, "I really don't know. What's the difference?" I asked him, "So, how well do you know this guy?" He said, "He's sort of like an old friend of the family. I've personally known him since I was 4 or 5, and back in the day, he used to live on our street." I said, "So what does he know about this creature? How can he help us with our so-called situation?" He said, "This old man, he is a wise Chinese teacher. He has developed a world-renowned reputation. He has traveled the globe teaching ancient studies. You remember the story of the creature I told you. Who do you think I heard it from? Well, he told me. Trust me, what he teaches is not taught in schools. But I'm warning you, he speaks in a lot of parables. His theories are very unorthodox, to say the least. I said, you make him sound crazy. That's terrible. If he's that bad, how did he ever become a priest? He said, don't be afraid, kid. If he grabs your hand and he reads your palm as he looks into your eyes. I said, is he a psychic or a priest? I don't understand. Come on, man. You're trying to scare me, right? When we got to the gate, we saw that it was locked. Then I asked, so which one of these houses is his? He said, all of them here. He owns the whole block. Then I looked at him and said, he owns all of this? He said, never mind that now. Just ring the doorbell. Then we noticed smoke as we waited by the curb. Suddenly I said, wait a minute, man. I know that smell. I said, Mr. H, is this old man smoking some herb? He said, it's just your imagination. I said, no, it ain't. He said, someone must be painting down the street. I said, you mean to tell me that what I smell is paint? Come on, paint doesn't smoke. You know it's weed. After waiting for a while, someone opened the door. A man came out, engulfed in a cloud of smoke. Then I saw him. He looked 100 years old or more. I thought, are you serious? This has got to be a joke. He opened the gate and then let us into his home. Then he said, would you like some hot tea to drink? We looked at each other and simultaneously said no as we went into his house. I didn't know what to think. The smoke was so thick in there I could barely see. I had to crouch down a little to get under the cloud. He asked, what are you doing? I said, I can't breathe. You're not making fun of me, are you? He growled. Then I said, Mr. H is hoping that you can help us. I heard you're an expert on the beast, a sort of guru. I know one thing is certain, you know your cannabis. He smiled and said, hey, it's medically approved. There was a smoky cloud that filled up the room. In a matter of a few minutes, I was high as a kite. I was as high as a kite. I glanced at Mr. H and Mr. Kim. They were high too. And then Mr. Kim said, hey, I think the time is right. Then Mr. Kim grabbed me and started to read my palm. Then I kind of panicked and said, hey man, let me go. He said, I'm not going to hurt you, so remain calm. Then he gazed into my eyes as if he was inspecting my soul. Those always worry me. I started feeling groggy as he looked into my eyes. Mr. H laughingly said, are you all right? What's wrong? Mr. Kim said, he's a good man. He's still a little high. They both laughed and said, look at him. He's gone. Mr. Kim said, he can tell me in detail what he saw now that he's finally in a hypnotic state of mind. He said, and I have noticed something rather odd, and I'm kind of anxious to see what else I may find. He asked me a bunch of questions under hypnosis, all of which I didn't even remember, of course. Mr. H said, what do you think? What's your prognosis? Mr. Kim said, it's all true, but I'm afraid there's more. Somewhat puzzled, Mr. H said, what do you mean? Mr. Kim said, something else happened that night. Mr. H anxiously said, what else did the boy see? Mr. Kim said, the boy saw his dead father's eyes. He said, beware of the tombs that are unoccupied, for the inhabitants therein no longer have control. They once have lived, but most certainly have died. This evil phenomenon now commands their souls. Mr. H said, so what in the hell are you trying to say? That his father is the creature, part of this nightmare? But we buried his father. I can show you the grave, Mr. Kim said. I believe you, man, but he is still there. I believe you, man, but is he still there? Mr. H said, I don't know. It's actually been a while. Mr. Kim said, when we're done here, we'll go see. But how are we going to hide it from this child? Mr. H said, I'm going to tell him everything. I already made a mistake hiding his father's death. I vowed not to hide anything from this kid anymore. His life has been a real struggle since his dad left. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't realize it before. Then Mr. Kim said, okay, very well, I understand, as he calmly took another drink from his teacup. Now I'm starting to see where it fits into our plan, but we'll discuss it a little more after I wake him up. I could hear their voices in my subconscious state, though the words they spoke made no sense at all. Like if they were echoes in a tunnel, but far away. I couldn't really see them, but I could hear them talk. Then I heard Mr. Kim counting backward from 10. That's when I noticed a strange look on his face. He looked a little confused. He was a little shaken. He sat there for a few seconds, looking into space. I said, "What's going on? Why did you put me to sleep?" He said, "I hypnotized you to get some information." I said, "I want to help, but you didn't have to trick me. So you get people high to help in your manipulation." Whoa, sorry, y'all. I said, "So that's the reason I was brought here, Mr. H. He said he was a priest, not a damn witch." Mr. Kim said, "Relax, kid. You have nothing to fear." I said, "So you had to hypnotize me? Ain't this a bitch?" He said, "Trust me, there's a method to my madness. Through hypnosis, I see things that are concealed. I have helped many with depression and sadness. After suffering for many years, they are now healed. Obviously, we've held on to a lot of this for a long time, but you've come under a different circumstance. You have to help your friend who is dying. I had to see what you saw, so I put you in a trance." Mr. H told me, "Kid, he had you in there for a while. At times, you had this old man shaking his head. When he was about done, he sat there with a smile. I asked, 'What's up?' I couldn't believe what he said. He said, 'Calm down, kid,' as he grabbed my shirt. 'I understand that you're upset, but try not to resist. Don't worry, man. I'm not letting you get hurt. Sooner or later, he'll make sense out of all of this.' Mr. Kim said, 'Let's all go into the den where I study. We have to find a way to put an end to this horror. Maybe we can close the book on our little buddy, because up to now, man, has this been a losing war.'" This old man's den looked like an ancient museum with all kinds of artifacts from all over the world. That's dope. I wish I could see that. Then I noticed a lot of pictures of a woman with him. I asked, "Who's that?" He sighed and said, "That's my girl." As we picked up a small vase, I asked the shaman, "So where is your wife now?" He said, "I'm holding her." Then Mr. H told me, "Come on, kid, mind your place." Mr. Kim said, "Hey, it's all right, man. He didn't know." Then I noticed a sad expression on his face. I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on any toes." Then I showed him a picture I had in my pocket that Petey drew lying in a hospital that night. Then Mr. Kim took an old book out from a locker. This book was stored in a case wrapped up tight. As he unwrapped it, I noticed that his hands shook there on his desk. I saw that it was labeled in red. I asked, "What's Vivens Mortua mean on the book?" He said, "It's Latin and it means the living dead." Vivens Mortua. As I was about to pick it up, he grabbed my wrist. He said, Be very careful, kid. Let me handle it first." Opening it, he said, "Does your drawing look like this?" He pointed at a picture and said, "This is the curse." He said, "Many accounts of this have been distorted, but this old book is the original with no alterations. It shows pictures and dates and when it was recorded, being handed down from generation to generation." Then he told me, "Kid, I have something to tell you. I noticed something when you were hypnotized. I know you saw the creature, kid, but he saw you too. You said you noticed something about its eyes. You even told your friends about what you had seen, but you didn't give it much thought. You didn't bother. But this creature, like others, is part human being. Its eyes are familiar because they are your father's." I said, "My father? How in the world can you say that? My father is dead. At least that's what Mr. H said. Next, you're going to tell me that he's a vampire bat. I really think both of you guys are out of your heads." I said, "There's no way. What I saw almost killed Pete. You're saying that it's my father? I say you're wrong. He loved me very much. He would never harm me." Then he abruptly said, "That's what I'm counting on. What we have here is strange and interesting case, one that we must definitely take full advantage of. To put an end to this curse, we have to find a way. Man has combated it with everything but not love." I was flabbergasted. Hell, I didn't know what to think. How in the world could that monstrosity be my dad? I said, "You must have had way too much tea to drink. That, or you got a hold of some weed that went bad." For the next hour or so, he told me about the legend and the so-called curse that he had been pursuing. After he was done answering all of my questions, then I said, "I would like to help in what you're doing." I asked, "If we find a cure, will my father live again?" He said, "Your father is dead. I'm sorry, kid, but no." I know what you're thinking. What's the point then? We can't save his body, but we can save his soul. Once a victim is bitten, they almost never survive. Even before death, they begin their evil infusion. There is no way that your father can still be alive. Believing otherwise, kid, is simply just an illusion. Trust me, every potion and remedy has been tried. Everything has been duly recorded in these pages. Nothing has worked so far. Eventually, all have died. This curse has been passed on through ages. People believe killing the beast, the curse ends, but in my lifelong studies, this is what I have found. They soon revisited by this evil creature again. They are soon revisited by this evil creature again, and that is what's been happening in this old town. Old folks say that it's possessed by an evil spirit, and most of them have always avoided contact. They felt they were safe if they didn't go near it. Usually it's the unknowing that have been attacked. Younger people seem to have been mostly affected. At least that's what most of my studies have shown. I found out the hard way that this must be respected when I painfully and regrettably lost one of my own. Once a historian, I now have a new mission in life. I've searched the world over. I've traveled all around to find a cure to end the killings, to avenge my wife. I've searched for years and I still don't know how. I said, I can clearly understand that you're obsessed, but have you tried somehow separating the two? You said that most of the victims were possessed. You can separate the flesh from the spirit, can't you? You're a priest. How can you have overlooked this? I said, they were all possessed. You said it yourself. You can kill the flesh, but the evil spirit still exists, so cast the evil spirit out and send it back to hell. He stood there for a second, just looking at me. Then he ran to the shelf and got a book in his hand. He searched through the pages, and rather quickly he stopped and said, "Oh my God, now I understand." He shook his head as he stumbled on an old chair. He sat there kind of befuddled. I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "I've been all over, and I mean everywhere. I really don't know who you are, kid, but this is fate." Then I said, "I'm just a normal kid, really nobody, sir," as he thumbed through the pages of another book. I asked, "What's that book?" He said, "It's a calendar. It's about the planets and the moon. Take a look." He said, "This book shows that there's a full moon. I bet you anything that there was one out last night. And I'm very sure there will be one out tonight, too." Then I said, "Yes, there was. You're absolutely right." I said, "Does it really matter? Is there a significance?" He said, "Yes, there is. Absolutely, without a doubt." I said, "A full moon, how can that make a difference?" He said, "Only during a full moon does it come out." I said, "What about the other times? Where does it go?" He said, "I'm not really sure in this particular case." "That's a damn good question. I really don't know. Probably in the tunnels of the aqueduct waterways. I said, "Yeah, so what's the purpose of the aqueduct?" "From what I understand, it's made for water, isn't it?" Mr. H said, "Since they put it there, it's been bad luck. After it was abandoned, the town was used as a waste pit. It was built to divert water from going into the valley. At times, the river would overflow and cause a flood. Once water flowed through the aqueduct, the alley, but the only thing that flows in there now is blood." I said, "So that's when this nightmare got its start?" Mr. H said, "No way. This started long before then. Today we drive around in nice trucks and fancy cars. They were riding in wagons when this first happened. They settled here along with the natives, of course, but there wasn't any water here yet to farm the land. Their machines at the time were mules and horses. They had to do almost everything using their hands. The old-timers built a canal waterway along the road. They channeled water from the river from the top. But during heavy rains, the canals would overflow, so they built an aqueduct to protect their crops. The flow of water followed the contour of the land, and the aqueduct ran in the conjunction with the grade. Even the wildlife preserve was carefully planned, along with the swampy marshes like the Everglades. The aqueduct had tunnels, which led to the reservoir. It was a big project which took many years to build. They even had a night watchman there from 8 to 4. But one morning they found his body. He'd been killed. Reports said he had an accident. That's what I read. But it never that never explained what had happened to him. Some people say his body was ripped to shreds. That's when I knew this guy was the first victim. That was the same year the old cemetery opened. It was 1810, and he was laid to rest in the first plot. Little did they know that this would be a bad omen, and since his untimely death, there had been a lot. Then Mr. Kim put a big crate of books on the table. He said, I've collected these books over the years. You may notice they all have different labels. This is happening all over the world, not just here. I said, where did this start? Where did it originate, Mr. Kim? The earliest record is from Sweden. But I think it began soon after hell opened its gate, when man was driven out of the Garden of Eden. It doesn't really matter where it first started anyway, because it's no longer just there, it's also here now. History is pleading for justice. We cannot disobey. We have the answer to the only question left. How? We need to come up with the plan. Before we start, we must put everything in its proper perspective. We can't just go out there with blatant disregard. If we do that, then I doubt any of us will live. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming back for part 5 of The Alley, written by Mingo Rubio Jr., being read by his daughter, Natalie Rubio. I really appreciate it, guys. Please comment down below and let me know what you think of this part. Let me know if you think I should do shorter, longer, and what you think. We're almost about halfway through, almost. And I just want to say thank you for being here. I'm really, really grateful. And I'll be back with more videos. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Thank you, universe. Thank you, God. And thank you, YouTube.